You're listening to Beyond the Campaign, and this is episode number 14. Welcome to Beyond the Campaign. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, podcast publicist, author, and host of this show and Read the Damn Book. Here, you're going to learn from political candidates and from politicians. We're not just going to talk about the issues. We're going to talk about the human beings who are investing themselves in us so that we can invest ourselves in them. This is Beyond the Campaign. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, and today I am talking to a man with many titles, Colonel Dr. Darren McCauley from Florida, who is running for Congress for the 15th District of Florida. He is incredible with a record of 25 years of serving all of us in the military. He is a physician. He has worked with veterans. He is incredible, epic, and he is a true leader. I enjoyed not only getting to know him as a person, but also hearing his thoughts on leadership. And I know that you are going to enjoy hearing this conversation as well. So get ready to go beyond the campaign. Good morning, Colonel Dr. McCauley. That is a mouthful and I love it.
It's nice to meet you.
It's so good to meet you. I am so excited to talk to you today and to get to know you and to hear all about these titles that come before your name and the next title that I am hoping we are going to add to your name.
Honorable, right? As I win my election next November and become a congressperson.
Yes. Can you take a moment to introduce yourself to everybody, please?
Yes, my name's Colonel Dr. Darren McCauley. I go by Dr. McCauley, Colonel McCauley, and often just Darren. I am a 25-year veteran of the Air National Guard. I joined the Air National Guard when I was 25 years old, in large part seeing the example of my grandfather or my uncles before me in order to try to contribute my small portion to America's success. I've had the opportunity to deploy all over the world in that uniform, and had the opportunity to deploy here at home too for COVID, and then also for the hurricanes that came to Tampa Bay last year. I am a pain management physician by training. I actually joined the Guard during my third year of medical school, and I spent about 10 years working at the Veterans Health Administration as both a pain management physician and then in the latter portion of my career as a member of a caregiver support team.
And so what made you want to run for Congress? Because although your career is really serving people, this is more of that, but in a totally different realm. And I always say I repeat myself on this a lot. I think it's one of the worst customer service jobs you could have is to be a politician because so often constituents fail to praise you when you're doing a good job, but they are the first ones to pound down the door and say, no, I didn't like that you did this, and to complain. What would make you want to take this on and to run for Congress?
Well, that's actually something that I think constituents and patients maybe share. When everything is going well in pain management, people will tell you, yes, I feel better. But they're definitely more vocal when they're in pain and when things are not going as well as they'd like, right? So I think that's just part of the human condition, is that when folks are in need, they definitely tend to scream out more and try to get more resources. And you have to view those cries and view those pleas for help as an avenue to display leadership rather than take it personally as if it means that you haven't displayed leadership in the past. I chose to run because I was a VA employee who was just witnessing what was happening to our federal government. I was there for the first round of DOJ cuts, the firings, the disrespect that was really involved in a lot of those initial DOJ cuts. I don't think that is really talked about enough. It's not as if this was just an attempt to honestly find fraud, waste, and abuse. There was an implication that we as federal employees were actually the fraud and the wasteful people and abusers of the system just by being in existence. And that came across really loudly. You can imagine having myself, a board certified pain management physician, board certified neurologist, a surgeon, an ICU nurse, sending people like this who spent years of study in order to actually care for sick human beings an email where they'd have to justify 5 things that they did every week and why they needed to keep their jobs. That's meant to be disrespectful. And it was meant to try to push highly qualified professionals out of the organization. Also, firing people who had dedicated their lives to supporting veterans, even if they weren't medical professionals, whether they were doing security, environmental work and cleaning up, or scheduling and administration. Right. That actually had an impact not just on the employees, but on the patients. So I saw a new patient visit in my department go from a month to closer to 10 weeks. Currently at the Tampa VA, which is very near to our district, it's about a 6-month wait for mental health services. And you can imagine how disturbing and distressing that is to the veteran population in particular. And I thought to myself that not only is this happening in the VA where I have a front row seat, but having been in uniform for 25 years, I had an understanding of how large the federal government is. And I knew that it was happening all over the federal government where services should be used for the people themselves. So I said to myself, this is a time to really display leadership, try to right some of what I felt was wrong and how this was being carried out, try to represent not just my community, but the veterans in my community, people that I had worked with in uniform and then taken care of out of uniform as a VA employee. So I decided to throw my hat in the ring.
It's just incredible. And I'm glad you brought up the disrespect because I think that is running rampant in this administration. There's such even for each other. Like we talk about the Republicans sticking together, and yet they are so disrespectful to one another. And then to see how they treat Democrats or anyone else that's outside of their party lines, it's mind boggling. Especially, I know you're a father of 3. I'm a mom of 2. I have 2 stepkids. Respect is a big thing that we are raising our children. And these are not examples that they can look to. I,
It's horrible that I have to, turn the news down when my children come in the room because I don't want them to hear the language or see the behavior of leaders in Washington, right? I don't
yes.
want them to like that. I don't want them to see a federal employee, a media spokesperson tell a reporter that she got the idea from your mama, right? I
Hmm.
mean, we're talking schoolyard bullying tactics on a grand stage, and I don't want my 5-year-olds to emulate that. So I have to turn down the news when they come in the room, or quickly turn into a cartoon. The
I completely
disrespect
agree. Hmm.
part it's part of pushing people out, making them feel that they're not worthy, making them feel that what they have contributed to America has no value. And I think that is in part to show folks that, you really don't need to believe in the federal government. You really don't need to pay attention to the federal government. And the reasoning behind trying to divert folks' attention is up for debate. But I do think that it's not up for debate that part of the disrespect is to get people to leave.
I really worry about what we're going to see even a year from now. Your election is 1 year, almost to the week of where we are right now recording this. And yet we've only been through this for the past 9 months. What is it going to look like in a year from now? And then do you think about the job you're going to have to rebuild everything they're destroying figuratively and literally? Things are just being torn apart. I mean, we're looking at SNAP benefits being gone as of Saturday as we're recording this. How do we, and I don't know if you've thought about this, so I'm sorry if I'm taking you off guard, but how do we even contemplate rebuilding everything that they've cut? I think about Doge cuts and, the different programs that they're just slashing. Is it possible to rebuild that once you're in office and once we do get an administration that actually cares and is for the people back in place?
I think that we can rebuild. So I have not lost hope that we can rebuild. I have not lost faith in the federal government as an organization or the employees that make up that organization as individuals. But I do think that the immediate thing, like when you have a trauma patient or you have a burn patient, the first thing you have to do is you have to stop the burning or you have to stop the bleeding, right? And then you can actually start to try to put the patient into a position where you can help them to recover. So the first thing that we need to do before we even get towards the step of rebuilding is stop the dismantling, be able to provide proper oversight The fact that we've had entire agencies be slashed or destroyed, like USAID, that we've seen tens of thousands of federal workers laid off, that we were threatened that the government shutdown would be another excuse to not just lay off, more federal workers, but lay them off in programs that are supposedly democratic programs, as if there are Democratic and Republican programs and not just programs for the American people. The first thing that we can do is provide proper oversight as a Congress, make sure that we investigate and document everything that's happened over the last year where the Congress has basically been inept. Because leadership refuses to, uphold those values and actually push that agenda of being an equal branch of government. But then also start to slowly build the case towards, all right, when we have more levers of government, now we can start to rebuild. But the first thing to do is stop the bleeding.
It seems like such a big task, and every day there's something more that comes in the whiplash of what is next. And I love that your experience in being a physician, how you relate all of that to what we're seeing now, to how you can tackle this. What was that moment like where you said, I'm going to run for office? What was that like for your family? Because I know this is a family decision. It doesn't just come down to you at the end of the day. I'm married. I know that my husband would be like, what? Let's talk about this.
Well, there was a real deep discussion with my wife. My wife knows that I love medicine. I love being a medical school professor. I'm currently a medical school professor. And I would have to give that up to run for office. Also, I had the ability with my job as a medical school professor to spend a lot of time with my family. So I have 9-year-old and 5-year-old twins. I really appreciate being an engaged dad. I love having fun with them, teaching them, reading with them, going over homework with them. And a lot of that is going to have to come to an end or at least be curtailed if I'm traveling and meeting with constituents and giving speeches. But I was able to express to her that throughout the last 25 years of military service and throughout the last 13 years that she has been supporting me through our marriage, our family has given everything that we can to strong economic, military, but really a happy and caring America. We have done everything that we can as a family, and that includes being deployed on, birthdays and Christmases and Thanksgivings and holidays and missing things with the family while my wife was at home, taking care of the children, taking care of the household, putting me in a position where I could actually leave and not have to worry about what was happening at home. We've sacrificed a lot for America because we believe that America is the greatest country in the world. And to see that country in a time of stress, this is just a different form of service. And I think that myself and my family still have more to give. And she was in agreement and was willing to support me in this endeavor. So as adults, it was an intellectual, albeit intellectual and emotional conversation. With my children, it's definitely more of an emotional conversation, having to explain to them that this is important for daddy to do, and that it does mean that he may not be there as much as he was before, but he will be there as much as he can. And that when you grow up, you'll understand that he's doing this for you too.
How does your 9-year-old kind of interact? I've got mine are 9 and 10, so they're Irish twins, so almost like your 5-year-olds. But I involve them quite a bit on the political side, to the point that they've canvassed, they've door knocked, they've campaigned for our mayor. They know what's going on. My son, he's the 10-year-old. He's like, is ICE coming? Like, we have to protect the neighbors. He's very passionate about making sure that we are for the people. That is his term. Are you for the people? Is whoever you're interviewing today, mommy, are they for the people? And he knows we only interview people who are for the people. But is your 9-year-old involved in that kind of a way? Are you looking at, teaching them government, and what does that look like? And, this is what a congressperson does, that kind of a thing?
So I have tried to explain to her, what Congress is, what the Senate is, who the president is, how they all work together in order to enact laws that are going to take place here in the federal government in America. And then we also have something similar happening where we have representatives and state senators and a government in a state, right? And the 50 states replicate that. And then we have a federal government that replicates it. And Daddy's going to be a part of the federal government. I've also taken her with me. To some of my club and caucus meetings where I give speeches and introduce myself to people so that she understands what I'm doing and what values I'm trying to represent. And she's very bright. She's 9. Before I had kids, I thought of a 9-year-old as like a kid. And now I recognize that at 9 years old, she has a lot of sentient thoughts on her own. She's very cognitively aware. You're having a conversation that you think is over her head, and she's listening and logging all the details, right? You can see the matrix happening in her head while she's listening to you talk. So she understands a lot of what I'm doing. But that, once again, that intellectual understanding of this is important. They're unfortunately, as a military family, used to me being away for periods of time, whether it's a TDY or a deployment or even just drill sometimes. They're used to me being away. But I think the emotional piece of like, oh, wow, okay, so there's a difference between Daddy being deployed for 3 months and we don't see him for 3 months, but then when he comes back, he's back. And now it's just being gone for a couple nights a week where I get back too late and they're already asleep. That is its own stutter step. So, she's old enough to intellectually understand this is why you're doing it. But emotionally, I still need to take the time to make clear to her that it's not more important than her.
What would be your biggest passion in wanting to do this? I know that veterans and the military play a big role for you. Is that what you would be most passionate about, or are there's certain issues that you just want to take on? Even though I think at this point there's so many, and literally you could say everything.
Well, I am passionate about veterans affairs and about veterans healthcare because it's something that's been very near and dear to me for most of my adult life, whether it was treating people as a flight surgeon who were still in uniform and then seeing those same vets transition to the VA, being the state air surgeon in Florida where I would help people get waivers who were injured on active duty or in an active duty status. And if they didn't get a waiver and they were going to be transitioned out of the military, knowing that they were going to be going into VA care, that is very near and dear to me professionally. And also, being in the military and being a veteran is its own subculture, right? So I consider military members and veterans to be a part of my extended family. Those are my brothers and sisters. When I was deployed for holidays, the folks in my unit, they reached out to my wife. They sent my kids toys. They tried to make sure that everything was good on the home front because they knew that it would make me more secure and more able to function while deployed. And you don't forget those examples of kindness and love that we really share with each other in the military. So, yes, VA and Veterans Affairs are near and dear to my heart. Very important to me. Seeing the cuts, you talked about how we would rebuild. I mean, the first thing that I'd like to do is hire back so many of those medical professionals, put them in a position where we don't just hire them back, but we expand, loan repayment services for people who work for the federal government. We expand services for patients so that we can provide that care within the VA instead of actually having to send everybody out to community care because we can't get them in 30 days. Expand the caregiver support program because it is not only a cost saving measure, but if you ask most patients and most family members, they consider it to be more humane to be able to take care of their sick or elderly relatives at home instead of sending them to a long-term care facility. I think that we can mimic that in our greater community, right? For people who are not veterans and who have not served in uniform to have Medicaid or Medicare provide caregiver support programs at home, caregiver support services at home, rather. Because, once again, if you ask a patient and if you ask their family member, they would much rather have the resources to take care of their elderly relative at home instead of putting them into an institution. So really would like to see that happen. But I also think that as a physician, being able to work with the provision of healthcare throughout the United States of America is a greatly needed perspective. We're at a time where we're seeing portions of this administration try to dial back vaccines. Here in Florida, dialing back basic preventative health measures. I'm not just talking about vaccines, but we recently stopped fluorinating water here. Our Surgeon General has given advice to people that they should drink unpasteurized milk. I mean, we are literally going back in time almost to the Middle Ages when it comes to vaccines and to public health measures. And I think that as a physician, being able to push back strongly on some of this anti-vaccine rhetoric, anti-public health rhetoric, anti-science rhetoric is sorely needed. So that is something that I would really love to work towards, and it's a lasting imprint that I would like to leave on the country, stopping this backslide, but then once again leaning all the way in and pushing forward so that we can see the provision of quality care for more of our American citizenry than ever before. Right? We have an American healthcare system that is currently very haphazard, where some people get healthcare through the VA, some get it through TRICARE, some get it through their employers or employer-based systems, some get it through Medicaid and Medicare. And we may not be able to come up with a unified system, but we can definitely make all of the systems that we have less complicated and more affordable. And I think that that is the ultimate goal. It should be for almost any physician in the country. I loved taking care of people as a physician. I love taking the time to teach medical students how to take care of people as a professor, and knowing that we could provide those quality services to the largest amount of our population is something that I'd really like to push forward as a member of Congress.
Why do you think we are going so backwards with wanting to get rid of vaccines and fluorinating the water, and why, and unpasteurized milk? Why is this a priority to so many of these politicians when we know the science has proved otherwise? Like, why would you do the opposite of any of this? And I know that some of them say, well, it needs to be the rights of the parents. We have Moms for Liberty here. I hear it that, the reading of the books should be up to the parents. And we want the guise of putting it up to the parents. But why are they so passionate about going against science and medicine?
Because it is a lack of leadership. That is the simple reason. So sometimes being a good leader means you have to tell people things they don't want to hear, right? You have to be able to explain and message to them and take the time to explain to them something that they don't want to hear. Whenever I'm giving a talk to a group of constituents or to a caucus or club, and they ask me a question expecting one answer, and I have to tell them how I really feel, which is the opposite of what they expect, you can sometimes see the look on people's face, right? Where they are confused and almost a little bit irritated by that. And there is a pressure as elected officials to always tell people what they want to hear because you want their vote, you want their contribution, you want their support. But true leadership means having to step out sometimes and explain to people why what they want to hear. The easy road is not always the best road. And if you take the time to message that appropriately, and you really are telling them the truth, that's the other part of that equation, then over time you'll be proven right. But unfortunately, where we have election cycles that are every 2 to 4 years, many elected leaders who are not going to display that type of leadership and backbone are worried that they'll run out of time. And if they tell people the truth, and if they don't bow to immediate pressure, they'll be voted out of office. So you have lies on social media that spread much faster than the truth can when you lay it out to people. So we have conspiracy theories about vaccines, conspiracy theories about unpasteurized milk and why it's not that bad, conspiracy theories about fluorination in the water, right? And about how this is forcing medication on people, and you don't force other medications on people, and it hasn't actually been that effective. When fluorinating the water, water fluoridation has been the cheapest and most effective public health strategy pretty much known to man, right? So the inability to tell people no and know that you're doing the right thing and not just tell them no, but explain to them why and be passionate about it and mean it, is lacking. And sometimes, I mean, that really just is a lack of leadership. When you are dependent on people's votes and dependent on their money, and dependent on them smiling when they hear your name, there is pressure to just give people what they want. And sometimes what they want is secondary to pretty much lies that they're hearing from a misinformation machine, or from people who don't know any better.
I love this answer. It rings so true to me, and lack of leadership and lack of integrity. I feel like the word integrity. I just wrote a whole Substack on it last week, and I was amazed by the response that people said, "Yeah, we're all talking about integrity because there is none right now. That we're not seeing it." So, this answer, I'm like, I'm going to put this in a clip. Because I fully agree. You have to be okay to say no and stop being the quote unquote yes man. And that is what we're seeing right now with the
Hmm.
Republicans through and through. Nobody's willing to say no. And I think that goes all the way from the vice president to the speaker of the House to every senator and congressperson who is going along with this, down to the person who's running the bulldozer on the East Wing. Everyone is saying yes and saying, I will do what you ask. It's not just this one person who's in charge. It is everybody who's going along with it. So I love that this is what you say and you adhere to, and I want you to win.
Last year, when Hurricanes Helene and Milton were coming to Tampa Bay, our representative Laurel Lee was back in Washington voting to defund FEMA. Now I'm sure there was a lot of pressure on her from the Republican Party, to try to, poke Joe Biden in the eye, right on his way out. Hurricanes that were happening in October, and it was a way to try to make him look bad before, the upcoming election, make Democrats look bad. And defunding FEMA was a great tagline. All right. If you're looking for an agency that is really expensive because it does spend quite a bit of money, it's easy to once again spread those lies and misinformation about this rampant fraud, waste, and abuse. I understand that there was probably tremendous pressure to do that from the Republican Party. But when the hurricanes are coming right to your district, and the people that elected you to represent them in DC are directly in the path of a category 3 or 4 hurricane, back to back, that's the time for you to step up and display leadership. To look at other people in your own party and say, I can't go along with this. I can't go along with turning my backs on the folks that sent me here. I can't go along with turning my back on my community, on my own family. People who bought property and who are expecting to be reimbursed if there is a flood, who are expecting to have help if they need to clean up, who are expecting to not have untoward medical expenses that they didn't plan on. I can't turn my back on those people. That's just a lack of leadership. It's a lack of integrity, because you know that it's based in a lie, but it really is a lack of leadership. And sometimes you see in great leaders, they do, pay the price for being able to say no when that's not what the people wanted to hear, or not what individual groups of constituents wanted to hear. But over time, when we look back, we recognize, oh, that really was the right thing to do. And they set an example for leaders in the future. And that's how we continue to push forward. So being able to take that risk as an elected official, to say that not only do I think this is the right thing to do, but to take the time to explain to people why.
Mhm.
And oftentimes, even if they disagree with your ultimate decision, they will understand that you came to that decision through a thoughtful process, that you really analyzed the facts that you had available to you, and they'll respect you more.
Absolutely. I try to preach this as much as possible, that if you don't like the way an elected official voted, ask them why, because there is a reason. There is always a reason. And you may not like the reason, but they will give you what the reason was. And then you can take it or leave it. But just
Correct.
ask, there's always a reason, and communicate with one another. I think these are it's helpful not only to hear what your platform is, but for the rest of us as constituents of what we can do, what we should expect, and how we can communicate as well with our elected leaders. It's so important. I want to ask you one more question. What do you do for fun? Being a physician, a professor, a candidate, a father, a husband, do you have time for fun?
I love the gym. I have been a bodybuilder, an avid weightlifter for the last 20 years or so. So it is harder with everything that I have to do now. So I'm up early in the morning to do my workouts normally. I really do enjoy spending time with the kids. We go to movies. I've watched almost every cartoon movie imaginable in the last 10 years. We play tons of video games. That's something that I really want them to spend more outdoor time, but they love video, especially my son and my oldest daughter. And then we also do go to the park. They're into riding their bikes currently, so we ride our bikes and we try to enjoy some outside time as well. Just the other day, I cut my call time short, reaching out to folks in the district because I had to run out to take my son fishing. Right, he had saw this at school. Some other kids were talking about how they went fishing with their dad, and he's like, I really want to go fishing, Dad. I really want to go fishing, Dad. And that, there's only 2 or 3 times that a 5-year-old can ask you that before you say, okay, I'm just going to cut what I have to do because this is important. So spending time with family, the old fashioned just Netflix and chill with my wife, but then also getting up early morning and heading to the gym 5 days a week.
I love it. It's a good balance for
Yeah.
whatever balance we can try to achieve. That's a good balance. Can you share with everyone where they can find you, follow you, help donate to the campaign, please?
Yes, DarrenForFlorida.com, DarrenFor Florida.com. You'll be able to find out more about my platform. On our Stop the Bleed link, I have plenty of videos that are about me and about my positions, what I think about what's happening in politics currently. And then there's also links for folks to volunteer and donate. We need both. We need everybody, all boots on the ground in order to flip this seat. So if you're willing to volunteer and you want to do something to help democracy, you're willing to donate and you have some extra money to chip in for the fund, we look forward to your support.
Thank you so much, Colonel Dr. McCauley. It's been really great getting to know you, and I'm wishing you the best of luck. Cheering you on from California.
Thank you. Pleasure's mine. Nice to meet you as well. Have a nice day.
I loved this conversation with Colonel Dr. McCauley. It just goes back to what I've been saying about integrity, leadership. It's missing right now. And we need to elect people like Colonel Dr. McCauley into these positions to not only represent us, but to be the true leaders that we need and deserve. I encourage you to go seek him out, go see how you can volunteer, how you can donate, how you can be a part of his campaign, because it is so important that we not only seek these people out, but that we uplift them, that we let them know that we are rooting for them, encouraging them, and we need them, because being in office is a sacrifice, especially when done the right way, especially when it is for the people. So please go seek him out, go encourage him, donate, volunteer if you can. And remember to connect with your candidates and local leaders and to really go beyond the campaign and get to know them as human beings.